Your Majesty Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, Your Highnesses, Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, and Mr. Secretary General of the Arab League. What I will say today is not a speech, but rather an interjection that will outline a number of ideas, or maybe a speech that does not have an introduction, but will move quickly to the heart of the matter. At times, one feels the danger surrounding him, and that danger is quite big. And when one becomes aware of that danger, one may realize that the danger is much greater than what it was. We all today are facing the danger around Iraq, and in my opinion, we are not truly realizing the full depth of that danger. Some may consider that that danger may affect them indirectly. Others may consider that that danger may get close to their borders. And others think that it will stop at their borders, while others may think with some maneuvers may avoid that danger for the long term. In my opinion, everyone is going to be targeted by this threat, maybe not directly and immediately, but maybe over a period of time. There are many things that have happened in the past were threats like Sykes-Picot, like the Balfour Declaration, the establishment of Israel, and today Iraq. This summit is ordinary by name, while it is really exceptional with its ambition. These are extraordinary, exceptional times that require exceptional leaders that will take exceptional decisions. I think exceptionalism today is to be courageous, is to be objective, and to stay away from personal feelings and hatred, and think about realizing Arab interests rather than the interests of others. And we could not take ordinary decisions given such circumstances. Let's remember August 2nd, 1990. In August of 1990, the Arabs met facing a very difficult situation. And the situation today may not be quite different. Maybe the situation was clearer back then. But in spite of that, there were courageous decisions made in order to regain the sovereignty of Kuwait. There are some who say, well, it was really the international coalition that accomplished that. That is true. But the role of the Arabs back then was to provide the legitimacy and to provide facilities. Today, if the Arabs were going to do anything regarding Iraq, the United States is not going to allow them to do so. So they're not asking for the legitimacy nor the facilities. There is no separation between what is happening today and what happened back in August of 1990. The plan targeting the Arabs is still ongoing. The only difference between what happened back then and what is happening today was that in 1990, Kuwait was occupied, while today Iraq is not occupying any country and is not threatening any country, whether that is a neighboring country or non-neighboring. And we in Syria are a neighboring country, and we have the right to speak about that, as does everyone else. I personally do not know Saddam Hussein. Haven't talked to him over the phone. Maybe in the past, there has been a very strong conflict for more than a decade between us in Syria and the Iraqis. The reason I'm saying this, so no one would accuse me of being emotional here. I'm going to focus on reason and using the mind. We as individuals, we have the right to agree or disagree with an individual. We may agree or disagree with the politics of a leader. It is irrelevant whether we agree or disagree on that. But we have no right to disagree over Iraq, over whether we love Iraq, or whether Iraq should be hit. If we had that right, why are we talking about the Arab League? Why are we talking about Arab solidarity? Otherwise, those become that becomes slogans, empty slogans. And I'm not here talking about what is happening here among us as Arab leaders, where some focus that the problem is on the Iraqi regime. If the issue is that there are individuals within Iraq that are threatening the entity of Iraq and the region, I don't see why now we don't organize a delegation that would go to Iraq and ask those individuals to step down in order to save the country and the region, and that will be registered as a nationalistic step. However, we all know that that is not the real issue. In the beginning, the United States talked about the return of inspectors. And later, it talked about the implementation of UN resolutions and Security Council resolutions. And then it talked about the destruction of weapons of mass destruction. And then they talked about the problems with the existing regime. And then they started talking about democratization and human rights. And now they are basically talking about the development that will take place in Iraq and in the region following the war against Iraq. These empty concepts that are presented by the United States having to do with development, all these are basically masks that the United States has put together in order to fool the world. But in my humble opinion, no one around the world has been fooled by this. People basically are bored of wearing this and these masks and started saying this is not the issue. The issue really has to do with controlling the region, controlling the world. The issue is oil and controlling the oil as a resource. The issue has to do with redrawing the map of the region that would suit their interests in Israel. The issue is to destroy the infrastructure of Iraq. We're not talking about the weapons plants. They are talking about destroy. They would like to see a people that vegetates, whose heart beats, but whose mind doesn't work. And they would like to shape it the way they want. Of course, there is also the Israeli dimension, and everyone is aware of that. Regarding inspectors, Iraq agreed to the return of inspectors based on UN resolutions. I don't think there is a country around the world that it violates resolutions as the United States does. As for weapons of mass destruction, if those weapons were truly directed at Arab countries, they claim that they are worried, they're concerned for us. Why are they doing that, not doing that for Israel? Who is killing the Arabs? Who is killing on a daily basis the Palestinians in the tens? Certainly, what takes place in the Arab world is not threatening the United States nor any other country in any other continent. However, if they were able to remove the weapons of individuals in the Arab world, they would do it in order for Israel to do whatever it wants in the region. As for democracy, if any one of us were to put in jail 100,000 people in jail for protesting the policy of the United States, well, that person would be considered then a leader of democracy. But anyone who opposes the U.S. policy would be considered as anti-democratic. If anyone forbids the ordinary Palestinian from exercising his rights, that person would be considered a democracy and respecting human rights, etc. So when we are talking about double standards, in fact, the United States has 1,000 standards, not a double standard, depending on the situations they're dealing with. It is imperative to get rid of these masks. Okay, the real issue is the issue of control. So they say they take a mask and then we try to take the mask off. They put a mask, we try to take it off. We should not mix things having to do with individuals as well as nations. No person can conquer a nation, whoever he is. That's one. On the other hand, we should not mix the Kuwaiti-Iraqi situation and then the Iraqi situation. Yes, there is what happened now and it's happening in 1990, but there is a new direction that has been taking place, and this is what led us to what is happening today. Some of our Arab brothers may not agree with this. However, we have to say things as they are without embellishing them. In 1990, the position was against the Iraqi position and not against Iraq. And today, we oppose any plan that has at its aim the destruction of Iraq. Let me give you let's say here that some are against Iraq. Let us take a decision in this summit, a clear decision to basically calling for the fall of the regime and call for the destruction. If we were to do this, we would be more respected. I'm exaggerating here on purpose. Why? Because this is to show what we always say publicly, that we reject the interference in the internal domestic affairs of Iraq, while on the other hand some are under the table or encouraging the intervention, encouraging the war. So if we agree to one thing, let us adopt it. And if we are against that, let us all together stand against it, instead of taking positions and then hide behind the positions of others. Because given these circumstances, we could no longer be in the middle. We cannot have one foot here and one foot there. We have to take a very clear position. There are today three very important elements: an international dimension, a regional one, and then an Iraqi one, a local one. Talking about the international dimension, the international one depends on the regional one. And depending on what takes place at the regional level, the international dimension will either take a stronger position or a weaker position regarding the war. So there is an interrelation here. On the international level, the focus is political. However, at the regional level, there is a political dimension, but also there is a field dimension. By field, I mean all the other things that are the economic, the development, the things that have to do with the region. And if we let the war take place and not do anything about it, then this would be a position of weakness. If we analyze the situation clearly and we take the appropriate decisions, we could face the future. So far, all what we have done is issue declarations. Not a single common, concrete effort has been done by the Arabs towards this war. We are concerned morally, politically, culturally, and materially. We are supposed to take this so we could provide support to those in the international arena who oppose the war. what is being asked. We are not asking for the implementation of the Arab Defense Treaty, and we're not talking about the removal of foreign military bases. These are sovereign issues to be discussed by the individual states. We're not going to talk about this now. Some countries have certain interests, others have fears. But what is important, and no country should allow the influence of those foreign forces within its territory to project their power outside the borders of that country. Otherwise, that country would assume full responsibility for what takes place. So the question is, what kinds of facilities to be provided for such a war? And this is the article that we should be focusing on in this summit, which will prescribe our role now and in the future, and the possibility of others to intervene in our own affairs. We should not have this summit be a summit where we're basically escaping responsibility or we're washing our hands from what takes place. Some officials have told me and told others, unfortunately, that we cannot impose this. When someone says, I cannot, it means that that person cannot make a decision. And if he cannot make a decision, it means he has no sovereignty. So if there is an Arab decision and a one that is non-Arab, where does the solidarity lie? We have good relations here, and we may have good hobbies and deal together, but what is and work together on the sideline. But what is important here, we're talking about a decision that has to do with solidarity, that has to do with unanimous support, consent. Sending a delegation to Iraq as an issue raises a number of questions. Will the delegation go to Iraq only, or will it go to the United States? Because if we did not do that, if the delegation goes only to Iraq and doesn't go to the United States, while the United States is the one pursuing the war effort, we would be sending a message that Iraq is the problem, that the problem lies in Iraq, and it is not the attack against Iraq that is the problem. So what can that delegation ask going to Iraq? Will it ask the cooperation of Iraq with the United Nations? Will that delegation ask the same from Washington? That is, that Washington also cooperates with the United Nations? What is the cooperation we're asking about? We know that the United States keep adding requests, one request after the other, one demand after the other. And when the Arabs started giving concessions and we reached concession 100, we start all over again with one. That is exactly what happened with our Palestinian brothers. They kept providing concessions, and look what they are now, back to square one. So the question that we're asking here is, what is the degree of cooperation that we are asking for? We don't want it to be to no end. What is the extent of cooperation that we are asking Iraq to abide by? At that, then, as Arab countries, we could organize a group here to discuss all these issues with the Iraqis. So it is very important for us to define the degree of cooperation. Also, we should welcome also the cooperation shown by Iraq. When the United States says that Iraq has not been cooperating, and when inspectors are saying that Iraq has been cooperating or has cooperated, and what they have found, is not really an excuse for war or justification for war. That is very important to me. If there are here details, if there are things that have to be ironed out, we are all Arabs here, brothers among us, so let's work together to iron those out. The last thing regarding the Iraqi question is that the Iraqi situation is inseparable, cannot be separated from the Palestinian issue. Our failure in dealing with the Iraqi situation means our failure in dealing with the Palestinian issue. This war, if it were to take place, is going to cover all the crimes committed by Israel, all the Sharon crimes. I personally believe that every Israeli is a Sharon, and all Israelis are attacking aggressively on a daily basis the Palestinians. This will give them the ability to completely surround the resistance and will lead to the final solution, that is a peace imposed by the Israelis, which is rejected by us all. And this could lead to the partition of Iraq, so in order for Israel to gain legitimacy in the region. When Israel will be surrounded by smaller nations, divided, Israel will gain then its legitimacy politically and socially. So when we are talking about the Iraqi situation, let us not forget our brothers in Palestine, and let us not forget the legitimate rights of the peoples in Syria and Lebanon, and all the resolutions passed by the UN Security Council having to do with the Arab rights and the establishment of a Palestinian state whose capital is Jerusalem, and the return of refugees, and to also support the resistance as seen by the resistance themselves. And we reiterate what we have always asked for, which is cutting off all types of exchanges and relations with Israel until we reach the just peace. I now propose, after welcoming what Iraq has extended as cooperation, and of course the continuation of that cooperation, I would like to insist on the article in the Common Arab Defense Thing that we should not give the facilities or provide facilities and ease to the foreign forces present in the region to use those to wage the war. Now we should do the following in order to feel at peace here among ourselves, and to organize a committee or a delegation that will meet with the 5 permanent members and other countries. It's like a commission that would do that. And also, and the commission would be composed of the current leadership of this conference, as well as past ones that would include Lebanon and, of course, in Bahrain, and that this group would later go to Iraq to discuss the Iraqi situation with our Iraqi brothers. Of course, that is natural and it's quite normal. I conclude my statement by saying that we face three options. The first, which is the worst one, that we come to an agreement after the war. The second, that we don't come to an agreement, and by then we send a message to those who are calling for war to go ahead and do the war. And the third option, which is a good one, that we agree here to take all possible measures to stop the war. And of course, we are capable. In spite of the pessimists and the cynics, we in the Arab world are capable to do that. Otherwise, there would not have been any reason to call for such a summit. Any other option that we adopt, we will pay the price in the long term, not only in the short term. And future generations would read that when Hulagu back in the 40s attacked the Ottoman Empire And in the beginning of the 21st century, the Arab nation was also attacked, and the Arabs would not do anything about it. But at this time, it will not be only one Arab country that will be attacked, but the entire Arab world. And I would like now to thank very much His Majesty King Khalifa.